Okay, it's a hell of an individual achievement, but is it actually a better product to be watching, and is it a harder sport to be playing today than it once was, NBA basketball? Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquiry 76ers beat reporter. He joins us. Well, it led SportsCenter last night on ESPN. It doesn't happen that often. In actual fact, he's only the 9th man to ever do it in the NBA, and that's Joel Embiid scoring 70 points. So, Keith Pompey, who's a beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquiry, and his round is the 76ers. He joins us. Welcome to the show, mate.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How big a deal is this?
I think it's a huge deal. You know, I think that, you know, when you're a guy like Joel Embiid who you know, is an MVP candidate, you're the reigning, MVP candidate for this year, but he's a reigning MVP, and the 76ers are playing well. I think this is huge. I mean, not only that, it's one of those things where, you know, Joel right now is the present, but the guy that he won up against, Victor Wembanyama, is the future of the league. And I think that this was a showcase game that everyone around the league witnessed, and they saw it. And this is a big deal because it's basically supplants Joel as the best player in the league. And not only that, it came against stiff competition. So, yeah, what I mean by stiff competition, I'm talking about Wembanyama. So this is a great deal for him, a huge deal.
Yeah, just on that individual matchup between those two, Webby gets 33 points, so not a bad effort from him. Is this just one of those nights for a player like Embiid where everything went right?
Yeah, you know what? I think so. I think it worked well for him. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, you know, if you look at Joel Embiid, he's averaging 36.1 points in basically 3 quarters. I mean, he's always had dominant, you know, performances, but it was just a matter of, like, he wasn't, like, in the flow like he was, like you said, everything going right. So it's not like you didn't think that he could score 50, maybe 60 points, right? Because he scored 59 last year, and he had 54 this year. So it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, yeah, everything went right, but I also think that he was able to impose his will against that team that was a little bit, you know, undersized outside of Wemby.
Keith, watching him, and this is what I always love about sport, you know, watching the post-match interview, the questions put to him and how he reacts. He was so circumspect about it. He played it down. He was talking, as always, as he does, about the team, about the performance, about where the 76ers are, about what they need to do, about where they might be at the end of the season, kind of deflecting attention away from himself. You've spent a fair bit of time around him. Is that the guy? Is that the genuine guy?
Yeah, but he's a team player. He's mature. He's maturing. But at the same time, I think he's downplaying it. Like, this meant a lot to Joel Embiid. Like, you know, him getting 70 points meant a lot to him. Like, I think Joel knows that, you know, he wants to be a Hall of Famer, right? And he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But Joel Embiid is a competitive guy. He wants to be one of the all-time greats. Now, I think publicly, if Joel Embiid comes out and says, look at me, I scored 70 points, but yet and still he can't lead his team out of the second round, it's going to be frowned upon. So right now he knows that he has to be a great teammate, a great team player. His team, regardless of what he does now, he's going to be ultimately judged by what they do in the playoffs. So with that being said, I feel like, you know, Joel Embiid is putting things a little bit in perspective, but trust me, Joel Embiid went home last night, did a fist pump, was extremely excited about it. You know, don't let the public downplaying fool you.
Right.
This is a major thing for him.
He did it on the anniversary of when Kobe hit 81, 2006 against the Raptors as well. He said he idolised Kobe as he was growing up and came into the league and all of that kind of thing. One of the peculiarities about this is that when you look at all of the others that have achieved this, most of it was done back in the 60s. There was Thompson did it in the 70s. Kobe did it, almost 20 years ago now. But Lillard, Mitchell, Devin Booker, and now Joel, all doing this in the modern way that the game has played. How important is that to bring into the conversation as well? Is it easier? I suppose that's what I'm trying to ask. Is it easier now to produce a performance like this and get a points total like that?
I think it is. I mean, a little bit. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you think about it, they changed the rules. The league is now they're scoring a lot of points. It was funny. Greg Popovich, the coach for the Spurs, was talking about yesterday how, back in 2004, the games were ugly. Like, they were low scoring, they were this and that. Now the league likes the up-tempo pace. They like a lot of scoring. I mean, when you think about it, last night, Joel Embiid had 70 points, but Karl Anthony Towns had, 62, from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, that just tells you how the scoring is up now. There's a lot of points, a lot of, pace of the game. Teams are scoring more points. So, which leads to individual performers, like a guy who can score like Joel is going to score more points, and the same with Karl Anthony Towns. So, yes, I will say it's a little bit more easier than it was 20 years ago.
As a man who's spent, again, a fair bit of time covering this, and look, I've been doing sport here in New Zealand for over a quarter of a century now. I'll admit I'm a bit of a grumpy old guy when it comes to sport. Look, I like defense in basketball. As far as baseball goes, I don't want to go and watch a game that's 17-16. Every now and again, that's okay, a home run derby or whatever. But I like a pitching duel as well. And there are a lot of fans like me that think, 133, 123. Well, where the hell's the guy guarding the basket?
Yeah, there's a lot of fans, but you know what? Unfortunately, you believe it or not, like guys get recognized by fans by the guy who scored 70 points. Like the guy who gets like 8 blocks or guys who gets 5 steals, rarely do they get the recognition, right? I mean, so I feel like as a fan, I'm with you. I'm that guy. I like seeing the defense. But the fans, they get in and they like seeing a lot of, up and down. It's kind of like, I hate to say it, in track and field, they love the 100-meter runner, right? The sprinter. They don't really care about the person who ran 3 miles or 2 miles. They care about the sprinter. They don't care about the pole vaulter. Yeah. They care about the sprinter. So I think that's that analogy. It scoring points sells, and it just seems like they're the ones who make all the money in the league too, the leading scorers.
As far as being a Philly fan goes, what are the expectations now on this team? And I also want to tie in the Eagles because my young producer, he's an Eagles fan. He was over there watching the team beat the Giants, the only win they had in the last 7 games, and then they bottle it out as far as the playoffs go. And he said the Philly fans were great in the stands. He said they give it to the team. So what are the 76ers fans like, and what are their expectations of this side as the season progresses?
I think the fans are excited, but the fans have been here before. Like they haven't had Joel Embiid score 70 points, but last year he scored 59. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Doc Rivers' first year, the team had the number 1 seed in the East going into the playoffs. So all this is great, but the fans' ultimate goal is an expectation, not goal. The expectation is to get out of the second round. And so that's what it is right now. Like all this is great, but it's a regular season stuff. The 76ers fans expect for the Sixers to go deep in the playoffs this season.
And who's the best team in the East? I mean, do you hate to say it? Is it Boston?
Nah, yeah, I don't hate to say it. Yeah, it is the Boston Celtics. I think not only they're the best team in the East, I think they're the best team in the NBA. The Boston Celtics, and they're going to be tough for the 76ers to beat in a 7-game series.
So finally, just give us your word on Wemby, this young kid. I mean, when you looked at him last night playing against Embiid, I mean, it was like a giant and a little rake next to it, wasn't it? I mean, these guys are almost the same height, but just in terms of their physical stature, how is Wemby going as far as you're concerned?
Oh, man, you know what? The funny part about it, the thing that got lost in Embiid's game was Wemby's play. I mean, here's a guy who had 33 points, he had 2 blocks, he had 7 rebounds, right? And he only played in 28 minutes and 21 seconds. Wow. You know what I mean? So, the thing is, and he was on a minutes restriction. So we look at what Embiid was doing, and believe me, Embiid was doing a lot. But they were having a tough time guarding Wemby. So he made 11 to 12 foul shots. He played a phenomenal game. The question is just Embiid just imposed his will. But when you look at it, Wemby shot 10 for 19 from the field, whereas Joel Embiid shot 24 for 41. So he had more than double the number of shot attempts than Wemby did. So, yeah, I was extremely impressed. People are going to look at it like, he dogged him, he did this, he did that. But for what Wemby did, I was extremely impressed with the guy.
You're an absolute gentleman. We thank you so much for giving us so much time. You're very, very generous, Keith. Applaud you. Thank you.
I thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Devlin.
Yeah, the next rule.
The Platform.